Yo, what is going on, guys? Got a rulings video today for set 17, featuring a lot of the new hybrid stuff, like red hybrid. We got the Omnimon deck. We've got Gallantmon support, tons of new support. So let's go ahead and get into some of the common rulings and gameplay you might encounter when you're playing some of these newer decks, and just yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first deck I want to talk about is going to be red hybrid, but I guess just this kind of applies to blue hybrid as well. So specifically, the new AncientGreymon paired with the hybrid line. Both the red and blue hybrids effectively do the same thing. What we're going to be talking about is how exactly you kind of pull off their effects. So take this instance where maybe you've got something like this Burning Greymon on the field and you've got these cards in hand. So Burning Greymon, you can go ahead and declare an attack with it. And then it says when you are attacking, you can Digivolve into a hybrid in your hand for a reduced cost of 1. So this could be something like the Agumon, because it says that it can Digivolve from Burning Greymon for a cost of 1. If you also wanted to do something else cool, you could include something like the old Burning Greymon, because this actually does evolve from a level 4 for a cost of 1. Or even something like your Aldemon. So this isn't just limited to the new support. You can use this to Digivolve into an Aldemon for a cost of 2, or Burning Greymon for a cost of 0, or I guess in the case if you've got maybe a tamer stack, let's say your stack is something like this instead, then Aldemon will be effectively free. So a lot of different kind of plays you can do, but let's talk about the kind of bread and butter plays. So in this case, you're going to swing, you're going to use the effect Digivolve into a Agumon for effectively free here, and then Agumon says when it's Digivolving, if you've got Burning Greymon in the source, you can evolve into an Ancient Greymon for a cost of 3, ignoring its conditions, but it dies at the end of the turn, so then this is going to cost 3, and then your attack goes through, you get a pop, you get to check a bunch of security cards. And then what we're going to talk about next is going to be the end of turn effect, because the Agumon and similarly the Lobomon, the blue hybrid one, does say that the stack dies at the end of the turn. Now, I want to clarify that this is effectively at the end of your turn timing, which isn't super relevant right now. It'll come up into play a lot more in BT18, but basically at the end of your turn, once your other effects have resolved, you're going to go ahead and use this effect. I'm going to delete it and then add back a tamer as well as a hybrid, so any of these. So let's say I want to grab this back, add these to my hand, and then I can play a tamer for free. I can go ahead and play this out. So that's kind of the bread and butter play. Blue hybrid effectively does the same thing, except the cards are just better, but aside from that. And then maybe if you've got a scenario where, let's say you do that play, and then you've got something like an analog youth in play. This can either help you continue turn. Maybe if you're stuck at 1 memory, you hit the end of your turn, this dies, and then because this dies, you can tap the analog, hatch an egg, and then continue your turn. Another thing that might be relevant, and again, the end of your turn thing doesn't matter that much until we get to the next set, where we get the new Takuya Koji Dual Tamer. Maybe if you've got another end of your turn trigger, this is a really dumb example, but just let's say you've got the Dremojimon on the field, which says end of your turn once per turn. It can move back into the breeding area if your breeding area is empty. So maybe in this case, like let's say you had this on field, you resolve this full chain that I was talking about, and then end of your turn hits, you can choose from either of these effects. So in the case of you doing Ancient Greymon first, what'll happen is it dies, you can add back these two, and then because it died, or I guess like fully resolving this effect, play this out, and then because it died, you can go ahead and trigger analog to hatch the egg, but then now Dremojimon, when you go back to its trigger, it can't actually move in here. So in this case, you would want to do, when you reach end of your turn, you have both of these triggers. You can do this one first, move this here, and then do this one, delete itself. Since it's deleted, it has non-deletion, analog as a on deletion, you know, add the stuff back, play out your tamer, and then trigger analog, getting the extra memory, but of course not the hatch. Again, I don't know when this card specifically would come up, but you get the idea. So that's kind of the whole thing with end of triggers. The other thing I wanted to talk about in regards to the hybrid decks is going to be related to their new option card, the Ancient Deity thingy that I've got right here. So this card says that while you have a tamer or Digimon with a hybrid trait, so being any hybrid or any tamer, so this doesn't mean tamer with the hybrid trait, as none of the tamers have traits. It just means any tamer, so it could be this, it could be this, or something with the hybrid on the field, you can ignore its red-blue color restriction. So let's say if you just got analog, you only have white source, but that doesn't matter. You can still play it. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this is susceptible to something like a CHOOOOO Floodgate, where it says player can't reduce play cost. So in the case you activating Ancient Guardian Deity, you can definitely still play it. You can use his main effect to return a hybrid or 10 warriors from your trash. And then it says you may play one Digimon card with 10 warriors or a Tamer card with its inherited effect from your hand with a cost reduced by 4. So if you go ahead and play a Tamer off of this, reducing by 4, you're still going to have to pay the full cost underneath CHOOOOO. Same thing if you're going to play a 10 warriors, which again you can digicross, reducing it by 6, I believe, 3 for each. So the Omnimon, as well as I don't know, any Burning Greymon, you can definitely still do this. It's just this will prevent you from reducing the cost. So you're gonna have to pay 2 and then the full 12. And then if you can't pay the actual full 12, you can't play this card from your hand. So it is definitely susceptible to those floodgates, which is definitely something you want to keep in mind. The last thing for the hybrid decks is gonna be the Koji Tamers specifically, because it's got this inherited where it says, when in effect adds a card to your hand, gain 1 memory, and then it gains jamming for the turn. So let's say your opponent has a CHOOOOO on field, you go ahead and digivolve this into your Garurumon. Let's say you have 7 or fewer in hand, and you can go ahead and swing. Or actually, sorry, it's one attack is just draw 1, and the inherited accounts to your hand. But the main effect is just draw 1, so I can go ahead and let's say draw 1 from my hand, and that'll trigger the Koji to gain a memory as well as jamming. However, since your opponent has CHOOOOO, this is no longer a Tamer effect because you have it underneath your Digimon. It is an inherited effect, so treat it as the effect of the actual Digimon. So you won't actually gain the memory. You do still gain jamming just because you do as much as possible. But that's another thing to watch out for if you are playing this blue hybrid strategy. Alright, the next deck I want to talk about is going to be one that actually got support in the last set. Is going to be the DexDoru line with the new stuff. So these cards here, this card's actually came out in set 16, but really with the advent of the Dex line, it becomes much more playable. The kind of difficult thing about this deck is there's a lot of different effects going on with the new Dex line. They basically all have the same trash effect, where they say when one of the regular line would be deleted by any means, by battle, your opponent's card, your own card, you can go ahead and digivolve them if they're in your trash on top of the one that would be deleted to prevent the deletion. And then that's basically it. So let's say, I don't know, let's say I'm going to go ahead and swing into security with this. My opponent's security is going to be a 12,000, and I've got this trash setup. Well, I can go ahead and say, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be deleted, so I'm going to do this digivolve to prevent the deletion. Since I digivolved, I will draw a card. The security check finishes happening, the battle's done, and then I can go ahead and get my on digivolve, which is going to be trash a card from my hand. So let's go ahead, I don't know, trash a card. And if my opponent's got a relevant thing to delete, because this lets you delete a play cost 6 or lower, yes, 6 or lower, you can go ahead and do that, and then triggering the Doorgrey effect as well. So all of them basically have the same kind of trash effect. So that also includes your own cards. I don't have a copy with me right now, but I'll put it on screen. If you have something like a Calling from Darkness or a Deathclaw on the field, let's say your trash is something like this, and I've got maybe I don't know, a Doruga on field, I can go ahead and pay the 1 for Calling for Darkness or for Deathclaw, deleting a Digimon when this would be deleted. Let's go ahead and interrupt that effect of Calling by digivolving into DexDoru, drawing off Digivolve, finishing resolving the Calling. Let's say I go ahead and add back these 2 from my trash to my hand, and I take these into my hand, and then now that Calling is resolved, I can go ahead and get this one digivolving to, I don't know, trash a card, and then since it's got Doruga underneath, I guess that's another thing I should mention. This works kind of like the Imp X line, or the Wizard X Ball X line, where you trash one and then you draw one if you're just evolving over something that's not the original. But if you're evolving over the original one, then you trash one and then you get the secondary effect to pop something. So that's kind of how that would work, and it's really sick that you can do it with your own effects as well. Another thing that's maybe relevant is in the case of DP reduction. So let's say your opponent, I don't know, you've got a Doruga on the field, or a Dorugora, sorry, and your opponent goes ahead and hits you with the final Shining Burst, reducing your Dorugoramon's DP to 0. Well, what you can do, since it would be deleted, and it doesn't specify by your opponent's effect, because it's just being deleted, period, by game mechanic, we can go ahead and use the DexDoru in the trash. When one of my Dorugora would be deleted, I can go ahead and digivolve this to prevent the deletion. So I'm going to go ahead and draw. And then at this point, the DP check happens again before any other effects. So since I am currently 13 and this is negative 12, I do actually have to, I do actually save this stack. So in this case, it's really nice because then now I'm at 1k, but okay, I can go ahead and get my one digivolving, which is to de-digivolve something, popping something if applicable, that sort of thing. Okay, so it's really, really good into stuff like this. Maybe in the case of if your opponent had a Marcus in hand, let's say they're going to go ahead and play the final Shining Burst. And then let's go ahead and resolve this full effect. So -12 and then play a Marcus from hand. So they're going to -12, play a Marcus from hand. And then this would leave the field. So we're going to go ahead and trigger this. To go ahead and digivolve into this, drawing our card once again, and then the newest trigger becomes this digivolving. You get your one digivolving, but then since this was played, we do actually get to suspend this to -3 and then gain one memory. So then this will end up dying once again. So it might matter in some scenarios, it might matter in others. Maybe if this was, let's say, a Wyvern's Breath and it was just -15, what would happen in that case? You could still use this effect just to cycle one card, just to draw, but then before the one digivolving effect would happen, since it's at 0, it would just immediately die, and then you wouldn't get the one digivolving in the case of it being Wyvern's Breath or something that just takes out all of its DP in one go, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's kind of the main thing with the DexDoru line. I think everything else is pretty much business as usual. And then since we're on the topic of Shine, let's just kind of talk about some of the new cards. Nothing here is super complicated, but we've got a couple different cards here. So the new ShineGreymon's really cool because you get to protect it from leaving the battle area by an opponent's effect by returning a yellow tamer. So let's say we've got this. Let's say your opponent does, I don't know, any sort of removal effect. Let's say they've digivolved into their DexDoru here to delete this, and then instead of being deleted, I can go ahead and return this Marcus to my hand. So pretty straightforward. Well, what happens if you've got something like Awakening of the Sun on the field? Well, what I can do then is, let's say they evolve this. They evolve this effect. Since you've got Dorugora, it can delete my lowest play cost, so it's going to delete this. When this would be deleted, I'm going to go ahead and bounce the Marcus to my hand. And then, since the newest trigger is now a Marcus was returned to my hand, after that's done resolving, we can go ahead and use Awakening of the Sun, which is when one of my tamers is deleted or returned the hand, I can delay this, so sending it to the trash, digivolving into this, into a ShineGreymon without paying the cost. So in this case, it can be any level 7 ShineGreymon, so the old ShineGreymon Burst Mode, the new Burst Mode, or even a Ruin Mode if you'd like. So we can go ahead and digivolve this, drawing a card off, digivolve, and then effect playing a Marcus, so playing this to give it -5, and then since this was played, I can go ahead and do -3 and gain a memory since I've got a ShineGreymon. So a lot of cool stuff you can do with the new Shine support, but yeah, that's really it. There's not too much to talk about there, and unfortunately, none of the support is very good. So sorry to you, any Shine players out there. So next deck I want to talk about is going to be Gallantmon, since I know this is kind of a fan favorite, and you've actually gotten some pretty decent support here with the new Gallant as well as the new Guillemon line. The Guillemon line is really cool because it says all turns while you have 0 less memory, add 2000 DP to the DP-based deletion effects this Digimon can delete. Keep in mind it is this Digimon, period, because some of the old, I think the BT12 line, the one that has the Gigimon, can boost all your DP-based deletion effects. So, for instance, those cards could boost the Crimson Blaze to something like a 7k or an 8k. This line specifically says this Digimon, so it doesn't work with your other effects. It's just whatever effect this has. So, in this case, if you evolve this, it says delete something with 8k or lower, but since, like, let's say you pass turn with this, putting your opponent to 3 or something, since you have 0 less memory, it becomes 10k or lower. So pretty cool stuff. Another thing I do want to talk about is that this Gallantmon, its protection effect is your turn only. So it says, while you have 0 or less memory, this Digimon isn't affected by your opponent's effects. So, well, what happens if you've got something like a Fenrir Lugamon on the field? Fenrir Lugamon says, the turn condition is the opponent having 3 or more memory during your turn. So effectively, let's say it's your opponent's turn. They've digivolved into Fenrir. They've done a bunch of combos. They've got some other stuff on field. And then they're at 2 memory on your side. But it is still their turn because of this. How does this Guillemon effect work? Well, it does say all turns while you have 0 or less memory. And so it doesn't actually care about it whether it's your turn or your opponent's turn. It just cares that the memory gauge is 0 or higher on your opponent's side, because that's kind of what it means by when you have 0 or less memory. But with Fenrir, it's on 2 on your side, so this actually doesn't trigger at all. Okay, so this doesn't actually do anything in the case of Fenrir Lugamon. And then in addition to that, if your opponent go ahead and let's say they swing with this, and then using the Fenrir's effect where it says, by deleting one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon, unsuspend it. For each of your Digimon, add 1 to the effect this it may choose. So I guess in this case they can, let's say they have a bunch of other stuff on field. I don't know, like bunch of other random guys on field, so now they can target a level 6. So let's say they go ahead and do that. Because it is still their turn, you can't actually protect it with this Gallantmon because it says your turn only. Even though you do have 0 or less memory, because it's not your turn, you can't protect from this. So in this case, they're going to go ahead and pop the Gallant, they'll unsuspend and then do the security check and stuff. So man, this line was like almost good, man. I don't know if they're just trying to be very cautious with the Gallant and like not make it broken, but yeah, this unfortunately does not work how it maybe we want it to. The next deck I want to talk about is going to be the Omnimon cards, and specifically the delay, the Miraculous Mega Knight. Now, I'm just going to be talking about this one, but effectively all the delays, just like the Imperial Dramon one, Return of the Primogenitor, as well as the Gallantmon one, kind of work the same way. I actually don't remember what the Gallantmon one does, but this and the Imperial effectively work like in a similar sense. So what we're going to be talking about is, this says, like, let's say you've got a field like this, maybe this Omnimon Ace is in your hand. This card says that when one of your level 6 Digimon with Greymon or Garurumon in his name would leave the battle area outside of battle, so just be sent anywhere else, deck bottom to hand, graveyard, or sorry, trash, or wherever, you can delay this to DNA into an Omnimon with that Digimon. Okay, so I guess it says that Digimon, any card in the hand. So let's say for this intents and purposes, you have these two in hand, this on your field. So let's say your opponent, I don't know, in that same sort of scenario where they've got like a Fenrir Lugamon or just something to delete it. Maybe they had the same combo where they try to pop your guy. So in this case, when they try to delete this, you can go ahead, it's an interruptus, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this, and then Digivolve into this Omnimon Ace using that Wargreymon in my hand. Now, because this is a new Digimon, the Wargreymon effectively dodges the deletion effect from the DexDoru Goromon here, because the option doesn't actually say like prevent it from leaving the battle area. It just says that Digimon can Digivolve into something in your hand, which, I mean, this is it basically moves it from being a Digimon on the field. It kind of misses the target and becomes into a new Digimon. So that's kind of the whole point why it doesn't really say prevent it from leaving the field, because it effectively accomplishes that anyways. And then in this scenario, so they went ahead and Digivolve this effect to pop the Greymon, delayed, Digivolve into this, and then now the newest trigger is going to be my Omnimon Ace. So what I can go ahead and do is DNA Digivolve and choose one of my opponent's Digimon and return it and all other Digimon with the same level to the bottom of the deck. So I can go ahead and, let's say I choose this Fenrir Lugamon, and I can go ahead and target this. They're the same level, so these go to the bottom of the deck. Of course, that gets trashed. So really powerful effect here, especially with the delay option. Now, the Imperial Dramon option effectively works the same way, but it's limited to just deletion, if I remember correctly. I'll try to put an image on screen. I just don't have it with me. But that in that case, let's say you had an Imperial Dramon, they Digivolve this, they try to pop it, you can delay your Imperial option, Digivolve into, I don't know, like a Dragon Mode Ace or something, and then like maybe bottom deck one of these guys. So really cool stuff you can do. Keep in mind, these cards are also susceptible to the Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode. I know that was a card from last set, but I just do want to mention that because it does actually become relevant. So I don't know, let's say proxy this for Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode, the BT17 one, but I'll put it on screen. So you've got the Dragon Mode on field, and then let's say you've got something like this, and then your opponent tries to kill this again, I don't know, with like a final shiny burst. There's just some removal option card. So when this would leave the battle area, we can go ahead and we can go ahead and delay this to digivolve into something for our hand using another material from our hand. So go ahead and digivolve into Omnimon. But then let's say if it's our opponent's turn because they're playing this option card or they're removing it in some way. If it is our opponent's turn, this dragon mode will trigger at the same time of the Omnimon. So they'll get to resolve their dragon mode. Let's say they go ahead and go to a fighter mode ace. I'll put that on screen. And then maybe if it's got more materials, it can go ahead and get rid of this Omnimon. And then you lose back 5 memory and it's really, really terrible. So keep in mind just how last format we're scared whenever the dragon mode is swinging and you've got an ace and it's like, okay, well, I can ace here, so let's go ahead and ace this. But since it's their turn, they get priority when something is digivolved, and then they get to go into their dragon mode, sorry, the fighter mode, and it's the news trigger, and then it gets to bottom deck something, and it's just a terrible time. You don't want that to happen to you. So yeah, just keep in mind that these do count as like digivolving by an effect. So depending on whose turn it is, if it is your turn, you'll resolve your Omnimon first before the dragon mode. If it's their turn, they're going to resolve their dragon mode first to bottom deck your guy potentially. So definitely want to keep that in mind. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about was, this is just like a super obscure thing that came up at one of my locals friends were asking me, but if you're planning on playing this Locomon, this card has an all turns that says when one of your Digimon's effects adds to this Digimon's Digivolution cards, it can Digivolve into ground Locomon for basically free. Now, there was a question where you have this hand effect of Raiji Ludamon or any of the Legend Arms that say you can pay X amount of memory and stick this underneath. And then they were asking, well, does that count as to trigger Locomon's second effect? The answer is yes. Now, the kind of, I can see why maybe that wouldn't, is certain cards, when it says one of your Digimon, sometimes they mean it has to be a Digimon like on the field, and so it doesn't see it in hand. But the way hand effects work is they are still a Digimon effect, and this card does just say when one of my Digimon effects would put something underneath. It doesn't say when one of my other Digimon's effects would. Kind of see the distinction there. So things like the new BT17 Parasitemon, any of the Legend Arms, do actually trigger this, so you can go ahead and use this effect to Digivolve into a ground Locomon for its free, basically. So that's the kind of a cool little interaction I wanted to talk about. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the BT17 rulings. Let me know down in the comment section below if you've got more questions about Doru, about any of the Imperial stuff, about any of the Omnimon stuff, or any of the hybrid stuff that we talked about today. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.